Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Giri Varadari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Giri Varadari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Giri Varadari Gopijana Vallabha Giri Varadari Jai Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Shuddha Shri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Can you fill that out in the balance today? During the class. Vijay's not coming back for a while. So today is the appearance of it's the appearance of Raghunandan Goswami, Raghunandana Thakura, Pundarika Vidyanidhi, and it's the disappearance of also appearance of Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, disappearance of Vishnu Priya. And it's Vasant Panchami and Saraswati Puja. So what I will do is what we will do is we could discuss specifically today Pundarika Vidyanidhi, Raghunandana Thakura, and Raghunandan Goswami, which, I mean, in and of themselves, I mean, you could have classes and classes and classes and classes, a lot of classes just on each personality. So due to the time constraint, we will discuss Pundarika Vidyanidhi, Raghunandana Thakura, Raghunandan Goswami. And tomorrow, Amogha Lila Prabhu and everyone can discuss Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur and Vishnu Priya, and the importance of Vasant Panchami and the importance of Saraswati Puja. So tomorrow we could do that. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Gyanativedandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshunamilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Kam Karitavachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinitaranam Vancha Kapalibhishcha Kripa Sindhivevcha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So first we could start with Sri Raghunandana Thakura. So this is some biographies in Samadhi's book. Being called away on medical business, Mukunda Das once asked his young son, Raghunandana, to offer the Raj Bhog to the family deity of Gopinath. So Mukunda left his father, Raghunandan's father, and he said, "My dear son, can you please offer the Raj Bhog, the lunch that's cooked for Krishna, the deity, specifically the deity of Gopinath." Raghunandana prepared everything timely, carefully, and with great devotion. When he made the offering, he remembered his father's order. Make sure the deity eats. Ringing the bell, the simple boy told the Gopinath deity, "Eat, eat." Raghunandana began crying when he saw the untouched food remaining on the deity's plate. He feared his father's anger for his inability to make the deity eat. Gopinath couldn't resist the child's intense devotion, so the Lord ate everything on the plate, leaving no remnants. Upon returning, Mukunda asked for Gopinath's Mahaprasadam. Raghunandana said the deity ate everything. Astonished, Mukunda told his son to make the offering again. From a hidden place, Mukunda watched in total amazement as Raghunandana offered a laddu to Gopinath. But the Lord only took half a laddu. Mukunda understood that the deity only took half because he was still full from eating the lunch offering. Choked with divine emotion and appreciation of his pure devotee son, Mukunda embraced Raghunandana. Later in Jagannath Puri, the Lord Gauranga lovingly asked Mukunda Das, "Who is the father and who is the son?" Mukunda replied, "Raghunandana is definitely my father because he has given me Krishna Bhakti and showed me pure Krishna consciousness." Krishna Lila Raghunandana is Kandarpa Manjari Pradyumna of the Chaturvyuha. It's interesting. It says, is Kandarpa or Pradyumna of the Chaturvyuha, which is like, there's quite a difference in function of Pradyumna, the Chaturvyuha, versus Kandarpa Manjari. It's quite a different.
Can we try that in the office?
We could try. Okay, then. Okay, Pundarika Vidyanidhi. I mean, anybody could remember this because we read this a number of times, Raghunandana Thakura. So if somebody asks us about Raghunandana Thakura, we should be able to say this, that we could repeat this pastime. I mean, it's very short, it's very simple, very ecstatic. So we should be able to repeat this. Because that's the idea behind reading all of these biographies and discussing these different personalities, is we want to have their personality, we want to have them within our mind. We want to be able to remember them. Just like when we say we want to be able to remember Krishna, that means we have to know about Krishna in order to remember him. Krishna Lila, Krishna's teachings in the Bhagavad Gita. So, yeah, we could try to, commit these to memory, these different personalities. So next is Pundarika Vidyanidhi. A disciple of Sri Madhavendra Puri, Pundarika Vidyanidhi was Sri Gadadhara Pandit's guru and an intimate friend of Svarupa Damodara. These are all associates of Lord Chaitanya. Once in Jagannath Puri, Pundarika Vidyanidhi met Svarupa Damodara after a long separation. In a joyful mood of friendship, Pundarika and Svarupa wanted to take the dust from each other's feet. A scuffle began as they tried to simultaneously catch the feet of one another, but at the same time avoiding having their own feet caught. Both being quite strong, neither won. But Sri Gauranga, Lord Chaitanya, enjoyed their sporting play and everyone laughed. Pundarika Vidyanidhi has other names, Sri Vidyanidhi, Acharya Nidhi, Bhakti Nidhi, and Prema Nidhi, given by Lord Chaitanya. Simply by hearing his name, said Lord Chaitanya, the whole world becomes purified. Premanidhi's pure devotion caused Lord Chaitanya to sometimes cry profusely and call out loudly, Bap, Father, Pundarik. Pundarik is my father, my dearmost friend. When will I see him again? Pundarika Vidyanidhi is King Vrishabhanu, Sri Radha's father, in Vrindavana Lila. Continually floating in the sea of Krishna Prem, Pundarik often showed ecstatic bodily symptoms of tears, ripulation, falling unconscious. Whoever recites or hears the following narration of the meeting of Pundarika Vidyanidhi and Sri Gadadhara Pandit will receive the treasure of love of God. Okay, so whoever hears or recites. So here it is. When he first arrived in Navadvip, Pundarika Vidyanidhi disguised himself as a worldly sense enjoyer. Besides Mukunda, nobody knew that Pundarika Vidyanidhi was a pure Vaishnava. Today, I will introduce you to a most exceptional Vaishnava, said Mukunda, as he took Gadadhara Pandit to meet Pundarika Vidyanidhi. They found Pundarik reclining on an opulent brass bed covered with red satin sheets, silk pillows, and topped with a three-tiered canopy. A gem-studded pan box stuffed with fragrant spices and betel nuts waited within arm's reach. So this pan, it's like a mild, I don't know how mild it is, but yeah, intoxicant. Two shiny brass spittoons stood as silent sentries beside the bed. Seeing the mirror stained red from his chewing pan, Pundarik laughed heartily. Two servants cooled him with peacock fans. Was this a Vaishnava or a prince wallowing in luxury? Wondered Gadadhara Pandit. Doubts arose in Gadadhar's mind about Pundarik's spiritual status. Reading his mind, Mukunda decided to reveal the highly exalted transcendental identity of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Mukunda recited Srimad Bhagavatam 10.635. Aho baki yam stanakala kutam. Although always hankering to taste the blood of small children, Putana came to kill baby Krishna. However, because she offered her breast to the Supreme Lord, Putana attained the greatest blessing of being accepted as a mother of Sri Krishna. So Pundarika Vidyanidhi, he was disguised as this worldly sense enjoyer, a very opulent position with his, as it's described here, being fanned by servants and wearing all types of opulent clothing and on satin sheets on a comfortable bed and all this. And Gadadhara Pandit was thinking, oh, is this a Vaishnava? Because generally Vaishnavas, if not always, they dress very simply, they eat very simply, they are just the very simple lives. But this Pundarika Lila, he wasn't doing this at all. So then Gadadhara Pandit was thinking, who is this? And then Mukunda, he said, okay, well, he understood Gadadhar's mind, and then he said, okay, I'm going to show Gadadhara Pandit how exalted this person is, Pundarika Vidyanidhi. And therefore he chanted this verse, which is describing that Putana came to kill Krishna, but instead of Krishna sending her to hell, as would be the case in a lot of people's religious understanding, God sending people to hell, what did Krishna do? It says that Krishna brought her, he sent her to the spiritual world, because she was acting as a mother, but of course a mother trying to kill Krishna. You could say evil mother trying to kill Krishna. But Krishna just accepted the good, and then he sent her back to the spiritual world. So, and then hearing this verse totally transformed Pundarika Vidyanidhi. As a Ganges river of tears flooded his eyes, perspiration rained from his body. His hair stood erect. He ripped off his embroidered silk shirt and wildly thrashed his legs about. Rolling on the ground, he wailed, "The Lord is infinitely merciful, yet he deprives me of his mercy. His clothes, brass bed, fine bed sheets, mirrors, spittoons, all his opulent trappings were ripped to shreds, smashed to bits. 10 men tried, but couldn't restrain the force of Pundarik's ecstasy. The manifestations of Pundarika Vidyanidhi's pure love for Krishna competed with one another for some time. Finally, his spiritual emotions reached their peak, and he lost external consciousness. After witnessing this spectacular display of transcendental feelings, Gadadhara Pandit realized his offense in misjudging Pundarika Vidyanidhi to be a materialistic devotee. To rectify his mistake, he wanted to take initiation from Pundarika Vidyanidhi. 6 hours later, Sri Pundarik returned to external consciousness. Now he seemed calm and composed. Happily, he initiated Gadadhara Pandit. And Pundarik is Srimati Radharani's father. So that's something about Pundarika Vidyanidhi. Quite a exceptional pastime. Okay, so one last one for today. Raghunath Das Goswami. Born in a dynasty of Vaishnavas, Raghunath Das Goswami was the only son of a wealthy landowner. As a boy, he received Haridas Thakur's association and blessings. So Raghunath Das Goswami was born of a very wealthy father. And as it's being stated, he had the association of Haridas Thakur. I mean, growing up, just think about the association we had growing up. I mean, or don't think about it. It's just means some of it is, if not in all cases, inauspicious association. But you have Raghunath Das Goswami get the association of Haridas Thakur, which Haridas Thakur, those who know of him, is a devotee of Krishna on a topmost platform, and he is Namacharya. He is the teacher of the chanting of the holy name. He's chanting practically all day and night. So this is whose association Raghunath Das Goswami had when he was a young boy, Haridas Thakur. And it continues. At 15, he met Lord Chaitanya. So then he met Lord Chaitanya. By the mercy of Nityananda, he renounced a beautiful wife and an opulent family. He ran to Jagannath Puri to intimately serve Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya, and his guru, and his Shiksha guru, Svarupa Damodara Goswami, for 16 years. Lord Chaitanya gave his personal Govardhan Shila and Gunjamala to Raghunath Das Goswami. You can see how special he was. He had the association of Haridas Thakur, and then Nityananda Prabhu, and then he went to Jagannath Puri to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and associate with Svarupa Damodara Goswami. Lord Chaitanya gave him his Govardhan Shila. Raghunath Das couldn't live after Lord Chaitanya left this world, so he came to Vrindavan to end his life by jumping off Govardhan Hill. Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis affectionately received him. They convinced him to live on and enlighten all the Vrajvasi Vaishnavas with Lord Chaitanya's Puri pastimes. So he would sit on the banks of Radha Kund 3 hours a day and recite Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, because he was living with Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri. So he would do that in Vrindavan after Lord Chaitanya's disappearance. Raghunath Das did Radha Krishna worship at Radhakund for 40 years. He lived an austere life of pure devotion. Raghunath Das showed the standard of renunciation required to attain the highest platform of love of God. His perfect example enthuses all devotees to develop unalloyed pure devotion for Krishna. And here's some of his worship he would do. So 64 rounds, 100,000 holy names a day. He would do Manasi Seva in his spiritual body. He would worship his Govardhan Shila, bathe thrice in Radhakund, offer 1,000 obeisances to Krishna. So very healthy. Right. And then it wouldn't stop there. He would offer 2,000 to the Vaishnavas. So that's 3,000 obeisances in one day. That's a lot. Maybe we should try that one day, huh? and embracing them. It says offering 2,000 embraces and embracing them, the devotees. Resting 90 minutes, and some days not at all. Keep in mind, however, with when an eternal associate of Krishna rests, internally he continues serving. He ate only 1 leaf cup, 100 grams of buttermilk daily. Throughout his life, he never ate anything for sense gratification. He took the bare minimum to keep body and soul together. It is said that after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya, Raghunandan Dasa ate only fruit and milk. After Sri Sanatana Goswami left, he existed on a leaf cup of buttermilk every day or two. And when Sri Rupa Goswami entered the pastimes of Krishna, Raghunath gave up all eating and drinking. And then it continues. He's compiled, or he wrote a number of books, famous books, Manashiksha, and a number of other books. One of these books is Vilap Kusumanjali. Raghunath Das wrote and taught that the divine service of Srimati Radharani in Vrindavana is the topmost spiritual perfection. And then in this Vilap Kusumanjali, it's a collection of intimate prayers. He states that Srimati Radharani's service is the highest attainment. Feeling extreme impatience and hopelessness due to separation from the queen of his life, he desperately prays for Radharani's service. My life is worthless. This is what he says in this Vilap Kusumanjali. My life is worthless. I will give it up without receiving your mercy. Living in Radhakund and Vrindavan is meaningless to me. To say nothing of Vrindavan, even Krishna himself is useless to me without you. O Srimati Radharani, you are the only object of my life. Please be merciful to me. Crying profusely in great lamentation, I hold your lotus feet to my heart and beg for your loving service. May this Vilap Kusumanjali bring even the slightest satisfaction to you. And he serves as Rati Manjari in Vrindavana Lila. All right. Shivaram Swami is, he's writing, he's writing commentaries on these verses of Raghunath Das Goswami. Specifically, this Vilap Kusumanjali, which, he's quite a prolific writer. So there are going to be a number of books. His Holiness Shivaram Swami, yeah, he's writing on this book Vilap Kusumanjali. So yeah, we could meditate on them and pray for their blessings on this particular day. And again, tomorrow we can discuss Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Vishnu Priya and the importance of Vasant Panchami and Saraswati Puja. Okay, so I'll just chant the verse because of the time. Tam tatavanatam bhaktam prajakamam prajapitim chittagya sarvabhutanam idam aha janardanaha. This is 42. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Although Prajapati Daksha could not say anything, when the Lord, who knows everyone's heart, saw his devotee prostrate in that manner and desiring to increase the population, he addressed him as follows. 43. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O most fortunate Prachetasa, because of your great faith in me, you have attained the supreme devotional ecstasy. Indeed, because of your austerities combined with exalted devotion, your life is now successful. You have achieved complete perfection. Purport, as the Lord himself confirms in Bhagavad Gita 8:15, one reaches the highest perfection when he attains the fortune of realizing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mamupeta punor janmantukala mashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gataha. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogas in devotion never return to this temporary world which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement teaches one to follow the path, toward the topmost perfection simply by performing devotional service. Om Gadadhara Gananjana Shalakya Chakshuvan Militam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So when a particular leader creates a movement, or a group of people create a movement, they have a particular mission in mind. There's such thing as mission statements, what direction this movement is going to be moving in, right? Movement means movement, to move in a particular direction. So the Krishna consciousness movement, which is established by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, was designed by him to move in a particular direction, and has very specific he has very specific instructions on how to move in the right direction. And it is, and to have very specific instructions how to move in the right direction, he also has instructions, very specific instructions in terms of what we shouldn't do, what we should not do. And we see within religious history that within Vaishnavism and with every religion, that there is always difficulties understanding what particular leaders wanted and moving in a direction. Means there's always differences of opinion. Just like within the Islamic tradition, there's a group of followers of Islam who follow Ali. They take him as the supreme prophet, not supreme God, but supreme prophet to follow, not Muhammad. And there's some Muslims who take Muhammad as the supreme prophet, and there's a big disagreement on this, up to the point of bloodshed. They're both in the Quran. They're both personalities in the Quran. There's a huge disagreement about this. I mean, and it's not just in the Islamic world. There's the Christian world. They have differences of opinion. In the Christian world, there's differences of opinion, not on who is. Like, for example, is Jesus God or is he not God? Some Christians, they think it's absolutely bizarre to say that Jesus is God, based on all the statements, right? Jesus says, I'm sitting on the right hand of God, so how is he God? Like absolute. But some Christians say, he's God. So it's a huge thing. Or should there be a priest that connects you to God? Or there's no need of a priest. You're directly connected to God. It's a huge disagreement. And there's been so many churches created on all these different points of disagreement. Also within Judaism, you have Orthodox, means the people who, right, more traditional, and you have people who are less traditional. And there's a huge, there's a disagreement on this, right? For example, there's a mother and a father, and they have children, and some daughter or something, and then the daughter wants to marry a non-Orthodox follower of Judaism, and the father, no way, I don't want him spoiling my daughter in our tradition, right? He's spoiled by secular? How do you say? Secularism. He's spoiled by that. I don't want him anything to do with my daughter. And on and on and on like this. Within Gaudiya Vaishnavism, there is differences of opinion. For example, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur his father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, people saw him differently. Lalit Prasad, one of his sons, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's brother, Lalit Prasad. Lalit Prasad and Bhaktisiddhanta, or Saraswati Thakur, they saw Bhaktivinoda Thakur in a different light. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur didn't have at all a normal, or you could say like a common relationship like a son has with a father. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur always accepted him as a Mahabhagavat, the topmost lover of Krishna. Right? Gora Shakti, the energy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur just didn't see him as a mild reformer of Vaishnavism. Because those who know the history, he really brought Vaishnavism back to life practically. Vaishnavism had a bad name. Bunch of sentimental, sensualist, chanting and dancing, not following any religious principles in Vrindavan or here or there. But he gave it a respectable name, Vaishnavism. Whereas Lalit Prasad and the followers of Lalit Prasad, they respected Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but they didn't exactly see him in the same light. And there was also a lot of disagreement in terms of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's emphasis. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was preaching to a lot of householders, means those who hold houses, married people, or anyways, he was preaching to a lot of householders, and these householders, including Lalit Prasad, his son, their conclusion was that better just be a householder. No need for brahmacharya. No need for sannyas. This is not so important. Whereas Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he thought it very important. And therefore, he actually branched off from this sabha, this group with Lalit Prasad and followers of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. There was a group there. He branched off. And he accepted sannyas, which at the time was not practiced within Vaishnavism, renounced order of life. And he started his own mission. And what did he do? He created a bunch of brahmacharis and sannyasis who would be full-time missionaries, preachers. And Lalit Prasad and his followers, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's followers, and all that, they didn't agree with him at all. They didn't like that he did that. They thought this was radical. They thought this was wrong. And they were critical of this. So within that frame, there was within that time frame, there was some complications, some disagreements. And then, of course, you have the Gaudiya Math, which is a powerful institution for spreading Krishna consciousness all over India and a bit abroad. But due to unfortunate circumstances of being attached to position, attached to power, attached to prestige, there was a bunch of fighting within the Gaudiya Math. And Prabhupada, our Srila Prabhupada, he tried over and over and over again to get help when he came to America. Say, please join me, but they didn't. So Prabhupada started his own. And yeah, surprise, surprise, we see within the International Society for Krishna Consciousness that, surprise, surprise, there are different opinions about things. Or you could say there are more traditional, if we want to use this terminology, more traditional devotees and less traditional. Some devotees say, we need to be very traditional. We can't budge at all. practically. And some say, hey, we need to get with the times, we're falling behind here. We need to adjust things, right? So this is the difficulty within religious groups, as there's always so many different opinions. But as Srila Prabhupada says here, that the Krishna conscious movement teaches one to follow the path toward the topmost perfection simply by performing devotional service. So ultimately, the aim of anyone in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness should be devotional service, should be spreading the glories of Lord Chaitanya, should be spreading the glories of Krishna. That is the mission. To lose sight of that is to fall into illusion. And as members of this particular temple or this particular community, New Govardhan, we should always keep in mind that we are representing Srila Prabhupada, for better or for worse, hopefully better. It's not that, I mean, sorry to say, but you join a religious movement, you join a spiritual movement, and you spend some time in it, and you're going to be seen as a representative of it. That's just how it goes. And to be a proper representative, we always have to keep in mind that this is an educational institution. It's an educational institution. It's not a sentimental one. It's not sentimental. It's not fanatical. It's not a place, to eat and sleep. Prabhupada said joint mess, or Prabhupada said transcendental hotel. It's an educational facility. It's a training place. It's a place where we learn what is Krishna consciousness, what is not Krishna consciousness. We learn how to be Goswamis. This is the training. So we should always keep that in mind, and we should understand that the mission is to become educated, to become spiritually realized, and to help the world. And we should remember this because there is a huge tendency within humans to just mission drift. Just getting completely illusions, completely sidetracked by all the details or all the different things that we can become sidetracked by. And it's meant to teach people how to become yogis, how to become great souls, how to never return to this temporary material world, how to become free from the miseries of material existence, how to attain the highest perfection of life. This is what it is created for. It's created for this. In terms of disagreements and differences of opinions, they're not going to go away. And we hope that we could all agree on the principles, on certain principles, and move forward in a way in which Srila Prabhupada would want us to. Which, of course, is a big discussion. What is the way Srila Prabhupada wants to move forward? Anyway, so does anybody have any question or comment in relation to Pundarika Vidyanidhi or Raghunandana Thakura or Raghunath Das Goswami or what we were just discussing in this verse and purport? Yes, Soul and Tyler.
Thank you for that. Around this next class. I was just thinking about how in the beginning of the class, how do you say the first?
Raghunandana.
Raghunandana, and then the other one was?
Pundarik.
I was just wondering, how they're both completely like the polar opposite. One's like completely like, they're both Vaishnavism, but then one's, you know, posing themselves as like a great materialist, and the other one's like renounced. But they're still very like exalted.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Well, you have like, for example, you have Ramananda Roy, who can never be imitated. You can't even think of imitating Ramananda Roy. Don't even dream about imitating Ramananda Roy. If you know what I'm talking about with the dramas, yeah. Training the girls and dancing, and anyways, it's a whole, those of you who know, but I mean, actually his particular position as a devotee is just inconceivable, actually. Extremely, the topmost advanced devotee. But it's interesting because he's also, in his life, he was acting as the governor of Madras, right? Which, it's not like he was living under a tree in Vrindavan like Rupa Goswami or Sanatana Goswami. It's quite opposite. So we see that devotees may serve Lord Chaitanya in a very opulent position, and they may serve him as a simple mendicant. So both could go on, but they should go on sincerely. Means if someone is actually sincere and knows how to use their opulence for Krishna's enjoyment, then that could go on. Of course, there's a danger, but if they're sincere and fixed, that could go on nicely. And if one can be a mendicant, which also poses certain dangers, like for example, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, you'd say, oh, these mendicants have joined the Gaudiya Math, but they've done it for the wrong purposes, simply to collect and spend on their own selfish enjoyment. But so it poses some issues. But if one could do it sincerely, they're both authentic paths. Someone may say, well, I want the more. I want the opulent one. But, or someone may, I want the mendicant one, right? Grass is always greener on the other side. But whatever Krishna's given us, if it is a mendicant disposition, then we use it. If it's an opulent disposition, then we use it. So, that's the idea. Okay, Mr. Tyler.
Hey, home run, Bhakti said. Well, that was going to be my question. I was going to focus mostly on the latter.
Great minds think alike, huh?
Well done.
Roommates.
That's good. So, but I did have a question. It's interesting. Janardhan Prabhu has been coming to our class so frequently, and it's the one
Two bodies, one soul. Tyler and Soul.
I'm trying to tell you. So we're eternal roommates, brother. Hey, so he's cooking breakfast, and his name is here. We have Janardhan's name in the verse. Yeah, so it's quite interesting. So it's defined in a unique way here, where if you look at how the Bhagavatam's defining Janardhan, it's mostly just as Lord Janardhan, Sri Krishna, Krishna, Lord Sri Krishna, Janardhan. But in this specific circumstance, there's a very interesting definition, which leads to my question. They define it as the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can appease everyone's desires. So then that naturally invokes the question, okay, well, how are we actually defining appease? It's an interesting way of, I guess, granting someone's desires. So there's three definitions, and they get more condensed, but they're all kind of begetting the same idea. So the first is to placate, or attempt to placate someone by granting concessions, often at the expense of a principle. The second is to calm, soothe, or quiet someone, which is pacifying them. And the third is to satisfy, relieve, or assuage. Yeah. So what's interesting there is to pacify someone, to calm or soothe them, you're doing whatever it takes to get them to sort of calm down. Yeah. Also to satisfy, relieve, or assuage, they've become agitated somehow. So you're trying to relieve, satisfy. Yeah. This isn't necessarily granting. That goes to the first definition. It's a concession. So it's interesting. It's talking about desires. We have desires. Janardhan will appease those desires. Well, so it's an interesting way of looking at, are those desires we have actually bad? And he's kind of like, all right, you have desires. Let me relieve you of this desire.
It's like, for example, it says that Krishna acts as a humble cleaner of our hearts, right? So this feels which is interesting because, just think about like you travel around the world, for example. You go here, this country, that country, this country, that country, this country, that country, right? And every country, every airport you go to, you see these you see people, these janitors, right, in the airport. You know, their broom and their gloves, and look like humble, simple people, right? And but for some people to act as like a janitor in a public place and do that for money, it's just like it's like humiliating for them, And you could see the position of a cleaner. It's getting dirty and everything. So Krishna, within our heart, he's acting as a cleaner. He says he's actually cleansing desires. Means materialistic desires in our heart. And by that, we're becoming pacified. We're becoming, our desires, it's like a burning fire, the desires, and then Krishna's just gradually, reducing that fire and then just putting it out, and then, you're peaceful. So that's what it means to, like there's a verse where describing that, how can I ever have a more perfect master than you? And by serving you, I'm completely satisfied. So, and also Krishna is it says in the Ishopanishad, Krishna is a self-sufficient philosopher, fulfilling everyone's desires since time immemorial. So in that way also, I don't know if that
you help me in the sense
fully
of
appeases you, or
when I feel. It helped me change the way I feel. If I feel in a desire in my heart somehow, now I can actually approach Krishna like, hey, I'm sorry. I got this thing I'm dealing with. Can you help assuage it? You know, not like, I need this. It's like, Krishna, I'm sorry. I should be serving you, but I have this odd desire. Can you help me get through it? Granted if you like, but help pacify me. That's actually very helpful.
Yeah, we have to be very careful with these desires.
So you should cry out Janardhan more often. Right.
Yeah. Cry out to Janardhan. Yes.
Well, I guess before I was going to ask something, but first I've made a joke about this before, but because Janardana Prabhu is known for sometimes for being a heavy, like a intense person. Like sometimes he gets things moving sometimes, and he'll be like a bodyguard sometimes. He'll be like security for the temple sometimes, So Ardhanaha means like destroyer. The more commonly means destroyer or eradicator or extinguisher, things like that. And Jana means people. Well, Jana generally just means people.
Yeah.
Or followers, but generally people.
Yeah.
And Ardhanaha usually means destroyer or eradicator.
Yeah.
Or killer.
Yeah.
So that's why I've joked that his name is Janardana. It seems like, at least those two words more often means the eradicator of people, or the destroyer of people. So I think it's fun. But then, but elsewhere, I guess Janardana is, I don't know why. I don't know what the breakdown is, or how Ardhana means the source of, because that's Janardana, the source of people in this case. Yeah. You were saying like the one who pleases people.
It's a shelter of all people.
The shelter of all people. So not sure how that works, but at least if you just look up Jana, it's like almost always saying people, people, people. And you look up Ardhana, it's always saying destroyer, destroyer, eradicator, eradicator, things like that.
Does that form carry a weapon?
Yeah. He carries 4 weapons, yeah.
Okay, so which one do you want, though?
So. Anyway, my question was about how in yesterday's verse, the point was, and then further in the purport, and Dharma Setu who elaborated on it, the verse was about how Daksha, though he had, clearly he had desires, but as soon as he saw Krishna, the effect of seeing Krishna is that he's fully satisfied, and also said he's fully happy. He's fully happy, he's fully satisfied, and he can't even think of a desire. He can't say anything because he's fully satisfied. He can't think of any desire. And then in the purport, I believe in the purport, definitely Dharma Setu mentioned it. It comes up elsewhere. The point's made that one can't really see Krishna if he has any material desires. And Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta make the point that, you say you've seen Krishna in the forest or wherever, well then why are you still enjoying your senses? You can't both see Krishna and still engage in this sensual enjoyment, because the two can't. If you see Krishna, it's not possible to desire anything else, because you've just seen the most beautiful person. And so that made sense yesterday. And then today's verse, the whole point of the verse was that Krishna and Janardana, while Daksha couldn't even speak, Krishna, being the knower of what's in everyone's heart, can see that in Daksha's heart he still has desire to have sex, or to expand the population. So I guess you maybe don't put it that crudely, but to expand the population. And so that's I guess why I was curious, because on one hand the emphasis was on if you see Krishna, and like there is a strong emphasis that as soon as you can't see Krishna if you have any desire within your heart, deep down even, and that you're fully satisfied if you see Krishna. So
why is he desiring to increase population?
yeah, it seems contradictory.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, yeah, we should remember that, or keep in mind that he's doing it as a service. He's obviously not a demon, but he's doing it as a service to Krishna, it's part of the universal plan. He's one of the, progenitors. Yeah, he's one of the progenitors. That's his service. So he saw Krishna, but Krishna, he understands the universal plan, and Krishna understands that this is his service, and Daksha understands that this is his service, and he wants to do his service. So it's not like it's not a fault of Daksha's to want to continue his service. It's not that, I saw Krishna, now let me take sannyas or something, or let me just, go to the Himalayas and, meditate. But he said, I saw Krishna and let me continue my service. Just like you could say with like Arjuna, he was there with Krishna. He heard the message of the Bhagavad Gita, but there's not a history of him just taking off and going to take sannyas or something, and he continued with his particular service. Even just Arjuna as a Kshatriya, you read the Mahabharata, and there's whatever, or just Kshatriyas in general having many women, or this is a whole thing, kind of to discuss or something, but are not, you could say, accepting a challenge, not denying a challenge as a Kshatriya. You could say, that sounds kind of like mundane or something. It's like if somebody challenges to a fight, how is it spiritual to accept that? And there's a principle that you're not supposed to reject it, right? So, but he's just doing all these things that Kshatriya is a pure devotee, Krishna. Or you have Dhruva Maharaj in the 4th canto. He sees Vishnu. And then Vishnu says, okay, well, I want you to be the king. After he said, I'm fully satisfied, I don't want anything. This particularly where this yesterday's verse, Swamam Kritartosmi Vadam Niyacha, that I'm completely satisfied. But Vishnu said, be a king. He's fulfilling the desire he had before. But the desire he had before to have a kingdom greater than his great-great-grandfather, that was a huge material desire, but then he became purified. And Krishna said, okay, I'm gonna fulfill that desire that you had, but you're gonna do it in the right way. So similar with Daksha, you could say, or what is his state of his consciousness before, but you could say obviously seeing Vishnu is, the most purifying. So we could say that he is doing it in a more purified manner, if not a purified manner, his service as a progenitor, right? And even like Dhruva Maharaj, if we want to discuss this idea of like, well, if you see Vishnu, then, Dhruva Maharaj got really angry at the whole race of yakshas, right? He was going to destroy them all. If you recall that. What was the offense? They killed his brother, right? And then Lord Brahma had to come down, but this person's a pure devotee, so. So anyways, that's something. Yeah. I mean, you could say that about Indra also. I mean, Indra saw Krishna after Govardhana Lila. I mean, Indra, he offered prayers. I mean, he saw Krishna. But even after that, if you want to talk about pure devotee, mixed devotee, he's still considered a mixed devotee within everyone's minds. And also he displays such later. Like, for example, later on in Krishna's pastimes, when Krishna goes to the heavenly planets with Rukmini? No, excuse me, Satyabhama. He goes there with Satyabhama, and Satyabhama wants the Parijata tree, right? And then Indra says, no. That's mine. So you could say, well, what type of display of pure devotion is that? To reject Krishna's request for a tree. I mean, it's not that Krishna was saying, "Give me all your heavenly planet," or give me whatever. Give all your wife's jewelry to Satyabhama or something. He said, "I just want this tree." Indra said no. So you could see that. Apparently, there's a great, from another angle vision. There's always a tendency of failure or falling. I don't want to discourage anybody, but it's there. This tendency to forget, this tendency to fall, this tendency to make mistakes. Of course, when one becomes more and more fixed and more advanced. When we become like that, more advanced, then yeah, there's less of that. But just like Bhava, you could say Bharat Maharaj is on Bhava. Okay, why did he become attracted to taking care of this deer, and then he completely forgot Krishna and became a deer in his next life? It's like Bhava. We would say somebody who's on Bhava is a pure devotee. I mean, we would accept that. Like this person's. So yeah, these are some examples of devotees. Yeah. All right, I think we better stop there. If there's a question online, then we could keep it for Mogalila. Maybe we could discuss at breakfast, because breakfast. Okay. All right. Granted, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. We want to say that Naveen, Kundachan Prabhu's brother, he's leaving today. So we're very happy he was able to visit us. He had a good stay. How long were you here?
Almost 3 weeks.
Almost 3 weeks. Wow, it's a long. Last time you were here about a week?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, nice.
You like to multiply by 3.
3 months next time, summer break. But yeah, you're welcome here whenever you like. You could visit and or stay or whatever you want to do. And I was thinking about, I've seen other Brahmachari's brothers come here. Hasyagrami's brother came here for a few days, not as long as you, a few days. And I remember Hasyagrami's brother, when Hasyagrami went back to visit their family, Hasyagrami's brother said, "Hey, I stayed in the temple and I did what you did. So now we're here at our parents' house, so you have to do what I do. Stay up late and, get up late and all this stuff." Anyways. But I remember also one Brahmachari's brother, he came here and he said he actually couldn't stay more than a few days. He rented a hotel. He said, "This is worse than boot camp." He said, "I'm out of here." So anyways, you did well, so congratulations. Hare Krishna.